Today we're talking about the pros and the cons. Yes, we're gonna go there of living in Greensboro, North Carolina. I get asked all the time, what do you think about living in Greensboro? So we're making this video today to go over just that. So not only are we gonna talk about the good things, we're gonna talk about the not so great things, but if you stick around to the end, you're gonna hear about my favorite pro, and it also tends to take people by surprise when they first come out here to visit. Hey, it's Jeff Valentino, your favorite real estate agent in the state of North Carolina, and I love helping people buy and sell houses. If that's you, if you're thinking about moving, you can call or text me anytime at 336-837-5924 or email me at jeff@govalentino.com. Okay, so let's get into it. The first pro about living in Greensboro, North Carolina is the city itself. It's the amenities. It has a lot of amenities that you'll find normally in a larger city. So Greensboro has a population of just under 300,000, so it's not a small city, but it's definitely not a big one. It has a newly opened Stephen Tanger Center for the Performing Arts. It has Broadway-style plays and performances there. It's a beautiful place. It has the Greensboro Science Center, which is amazing. It has a very large aquatic center here, lots of parks. It's got great shopping. It has an Apple store here. We have the Friendly Center, which has a lot of higher end shops if that's what you're into. But also it has a lot of cultural diversity here. And for me, that means like restaurants and places to shop for food and things to cook with us. So it has a lot more diversity in that regard than what you'll see in other like small and medium-sized cities. All right, so the first con we're gonna talk about living in Greensboro is, let's just go there and let's get to it, it's the crime. If you do a Google search or anything like that, you're gonna see that Greensboro has a higher crime rate than the average across the country. So let's talk about that a little bit. I'm a fan of going to different places to actually see the crime map. So if you Google, one of my favorite resources is neighborhoodscout.com. If you Google Greensboro crime statistics and you pull up neighborhoodscout.com, you're gonna see a couple things. And the reason why I like this site is right across the top bar over there. First thing you'll see is it has an overview with the highest priced neighborhoods in Greensboro. You see it has a tab for highest rated schools. And then of course, you're also gonna see one where it has crime statistics and crime maps. And you can see the shades from lighter to darker in all those different tabs on how Greensboro ranks. If you spend a little bit of time looking at those things, you're gonna notice something is that crime, unfortunately, tends to be in the lower income areas. So if you're looking for homes in that area, you want to get a little bit of a closer look on those. The city itself has more detailed crime maps if you go on their website. But also, recently, Channel 2 News also did a story on crime in Greensboro. They used a site called crimemapping.com where they mapped out all the violent crime in the city over the past month when they did that story. And if you line that up over the other stuff that we talked about on Neighborhood Scout, you're gonna see that it's concentrated in a lot of areas. And just if you're gonna look into those areas to buy a home, that you wanna do a little bit more due diligence or you wanna get a little more detailed map from the city would be my suggestion. Also, I referenced niche.com where the city has an overall A rating and over 80% of the people felt that Greensboro was either safe or very safe, with only 2% of the people surveyed reporting that they felt unsafe here. Greensboro, the numbers are the numbers in that regard. I can tell you this, when I come down here, I feel safe. When I bring my kids down here, we feel safe. When we go downtown to visit restaurants or we go to different parks and things like that, we don't feel like there's any problem. But again, it's something that you should spend a little bit of time and do your own due diligence on. Now the next pro about living in Greensboro, North Carolina is the affordability. Now the cost of living in Greensboro is lower than the national average overall, but it's also lower in everyday things like gas, transportation, healthcare, utilities. But where you're gonna probably save the biggest money in the cost of living here is the affordability of the housing. Now in the second quarter of 2021, the median sales price for homes for a 3-bedroom home in the United States was a little over $380,000. In Greensboro, North Carolina, the average price for a 3-bedroom home right now is $235,000. Now keep in mind, the market is going up and things like that, so that might change over time, but still $235,000 is the average price in Greensboro, and that includes homes from $100,000 for a 3-bedroom to $1.1 million for 3 bedrooms that is actually listed right now. So the key takeaway in the affordability piece is not only are you going to pay less for most everyday things when you live in Greensboro, but housing is where you can save a significant amount of money. Even if you're above the Greensboro average of $235,000, if you're gonna go into a middle or upper middle price range, you should still be less than the national average that you would pay in other parts of the country. All right, so the next con is a little bit longer than average winters for the South. Now, I moved from the suburbs of Chicago where it feels like it's winter like 6 or 8 months a year. But when I came down to the South, I was like, sunshine, long summers, very, very short winters. And I found out that wasn't quite true. Now, the 2 coldest months of the year are January and February. The average lows in those months are 27 and 30 degrees respectively. The nice thing about that is, what I did find is that while it is cold in the morning, a little bit colder than I expected, some mornings will drop down into the teens or low 20s even, but that does tend to dissipate a little bit quicker. So again, I'm comparing through my filter of Chicago where it's like 20 below like all day and all night long. The lows in the morning tend to go away just then in the morning, and then mid and later in the day it tends to warm up. Now, the part that did surprise me was it can kind of go on a little bit longer than I thought. I expected, by March it's going to be all sunshine and roses, and that wasn't always the case. We can still get some of those colder temperatures well into March. The next pro about living in Greensboro is the location of the city itself. Now, Greensboro is located just about in the geographic center of the state, which makes travel around really simple. For instance, this summer, my kids and I, we spent some time out in the mountains, just about a 2.5-hour drive, and we're out there, which is awesome. And then this summer, we did about another 3-hour drive, and we're at the beach with family. It is great. It's also about an hour and a half to, if you want to get to one of the more big cities like Raleigh or Charlotte. It's just about, depending where you start at in Greensboro, it's about an hour to an hour and 30 minutes to get one of those if you want to go visit a bigger city. So the location of Greensboro, not only do you get the mix of the affordability and everything like that, but you can go see a lot of the other nice things in the state really, really simply. All right, the next con about living in Greensboro is the city kind of lacks its own identity. Now, it used to be back in the day a big textile town, and now since a lot of that has left, I feel like it's kind of still searching for what it wants to be next. Is it a sports town? It has the ACC headquarters in here. It has the Greensboro Aquatic Center, which is the largest indoor aquatic center in the country. So is it kind of a sports town, or is it a performing arts town? It has the Stephen Tanger Center for the Performing Arts. It has other art and science exhibits, the Greensboro Science Center. So is it that? Is it that? There's still plenty of large employers here too, but it's still kind of finding its way on really what it wants to be next. So if you contrast that with a town like Winston-Salem, that's clearly marketed and rebranded itself as like the city of arts and entertainment, I feel like Greensboro is a little bit behind in where it wants to be going into the next generation. There's still plenty of money and development going on down here, but I think with a little bit more direction, it would really help the city. Now, the last pro about living in Greensboro, and the one that can take people by surprise if it's their first time here, is the people. This is also my favorite. The people here are so friendly and outgoing, it actually can take you by surprise. Actually, I had a former colleague when I lived in Chicago just messaged me the other day, and I'll put the conversation up here, but he messaged me, he was visiting Greensboro for the first time. He has family out here now. He commented on how nice the people were, how engaging in conversation they were, and frankly, how he kind of forgot how people in Chicago can be a little bit abrupt, and I won't use the word he did, but maybe not so nice all the time. But the people here are just really friendly, they're welcoming, so it encourages people from all over to come here and just feel like they're a part of the city. So there we have it, some of the pros and cons about living in Greensboro, North Carolina. Did I miss anything? Leave them in the comments below. What do you think? What are your favorite things about living in Greensboro? If you're thinking about buying or selling real estate here, I'd love to help you out with that. You can call or text me at 336-837-5924, or you can email me at jeff@govalentino.com.